"We serve actual clients here, not window shoppers." The sales associate's words sliced through the hushed atmosphere of Kingsley and Ross, Manhattan's most exclusive suit boutique. Every head turned. The young man, clutching his worn leather portfolio like a shield, froze mid-step on the gleaming marble floor. His second-hand blazer suddenly felt like it was made of sandpaper against his skin. What the sales associate didn't notice was the man in the casual gray hoodie by the tie display, whose eyes narrowed slightly as he set down his espresso. Kingsley and Ross wasn't just a store. It was a temple of status where Wall Street executives dropped $10,000 on bespoke suits without blinking. Crystal chandeliers cast diamond-like reflections across Italian silk ties and hand-stitched jackets. The boutique smelled of cedar, leather, and old money. Michael Chen had spent 3 months saving for this moment, his first major interview at Goldman Sachs tomorrow, calculating exactly how many meals he'd need to skip to afford even the most basic suit from their collection. Now, 6 sets of judging eyes watched his humiliation unfold. The sales associate smirked, his own custom suit a perfect armor of privilege. "Perhaps Men's Warehouse is more appropriate for your budget," he suggested, voice dripping with practiced disdain. A muffled laugh came from somewhere near the fitting rooms. Michael's face burned as he took a step back, dignity crumbling. That's when the hooded figure moved, casually pulling back his cap. A ripple of recognition washed through the store. Leonardo DiCaprio stepped forward, his casual attire suddenly the most powerful outfit in the room. What happened next would change lives forever. The silence in Kingsley and Ross became a living thing, thick, expectant, electric. The fluorescent light suddenly seemed too bright as Leonardo DiCaprio moved with the casual confidence that came from decades of being the most powerful person in any room. Michael Chen stood frozen, his dreams of impressing Goldman Sachs interviewers evaporating like morning dew. He'd practiced his elevator pitch for weeks, had memorized financial terms until they danced in his dreams, but nothing had prepared him for this public humiliation. The sales associate, Bradley Whitfield, according to his gold name tag, shifted uncomfortably. His smirk wavered as he recognized the Academy Award winner approaching. A woman in a Chanel suit nudged her husband, who was already raising his phone discreetly. Bradley straightened his already perfect posture, client-ready smile automatically activating. After all, Leonardo DiCaprio was precisely the caliber of client Kingsley and Ross catered to, unlike the clearly out-of-place young Asian man in the worn blazer. "Mr. DiCaprio," Bradley purred, stepping around Michael as if he were merely an inconvenient display rack. "What an unexpected honor. How may we assist you today? We've just received an exceptional collection from Milan that would complement your coloring perfectly." Leonardo didn't acknowledge Bradley. Instead, he stopped beside Michael, whose eyes remained fixed on the marble floor, cheeks burning with humiliation. The boutique's hushed atmosphere grew heavier with each passing second. "First interview?" Leonardo asked quietly. Michael looked up, momentarily confused before recognition dawned in his eyes. "Yes?" "Tomorrow morning," he managed, voice barely above a whisper. "Goldman Sachs." Leonardo nodded thoughtfully. "Big day. First suit?" "Was hoping to be," Michael replied, finding his voice. "I've been saving since I got the interview callback. 3 months of double shifts at the campus cafe." He glanced toward the exit, tension visible in his shoulders. "But I should go. This was a mistake." Bradley hovered awkwardly, his professional smile still plastered on his face, though it no longer reached his eyes. Around them, the boutique's other customers had abandoned any pretense of shopping. A middle-aged man in a bespoke Italian suit pretended to examine a display of cufflinks while his wife whispered urgently behind her hand. 2 young executives by the fitting rooms stood completely still, phones held low but unmistakably recording. The store's manager emerged from a back office, sensing something unusual disrupting the carefully cultivated atmosphere of exclusive luxury. "You know," Leonardo said, his voice carrying in the hushed space without seeming to try, "I remember my first big audition, couldn't afford the right clothes either." He turned to face Bradley directly, his expression pleasant, but eyes unflinching. "Had a salesman very much like yourself tell me I was wasting his time." Bradley's smile faltered. "Sir, I assure you—" "I was 16, Leonardo continued as if Bradley hadn't spoken. "Walked into that audition anyway in my second-hand clothes, got the part." He turned back to Michael. "Know why?" Michael shook his head slightly. "Because clothes don't make the man. Never have." Leonardo's voice remained conversational, but it carried a weight that made everyone in the boutique lean forward slightly. "The right suit doesn't give you talent. The right tie doesn't make you intelligent." He gestured around the store. "All this? Window dressing." The manager was moving toward them now, her Louboutins clicking on the marble floor like approaching thunder. Bradley's face had lost its practiced smoothness, the color draining as he realized the scene unfolding wasn't just an uncomfortable moment. It was becoming a very public lesson in humanity, delivered by one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. And somehow he knew with absolute certainty this moment would follow him long after Leonardo DiCaprio walked out the door. The boutique manager, Vivian Porter, reached them with a practiced smile that didn't quite mask her concern. Her eyes darted between Leonardo, Michael, and Bradley, quickly assessing the situation like a chess player calculating 3 moves ahead. "Mr. DiCaprio, what an honor," she said smoothly. "I'm Vivian Porter, manager of Kingsley and Ross. Is there perhaps a private room where we might better assist you today?" Her voice carried a hint of desperation beneath its professional veneer, a clear attempt to move whatever was happening away from the increasingly attentive audience. Leonardo smiled politely but shook his head. "Actually, I'm here to help Michael find a suit." He placed a casual hand on the young man's shoulder. "For his Goldman interview tomorrow." Bradley's mouth opened slightly, then closed without sound. Vivian's smile remained fixed, though something flickered behind her eyes, calculation perhaps, or recognition, that damage control was now her primary objective. "Of course," she said, voice honeyed with renewed enthusiasm. "We would be delighted to assist both of you." "Bradley here," Leonardo continued, "was just explaining how Michael might be better suited elsewhere." His tone remained conversational, but the words hung in the air like approaching storm clouds. "I was curious about that assessment." Michael stood straighter now, the initial shock of DiCaprio's intervention wearing off. Though still visibly uncomfortable, something had changed in his posture, a subtle reinforcement of his spine, a slight raising of his chin. The other customers had given up any pretense of shopping. The middle-aged couple had moved closer, the woman now filming openly with her phone. The 2 young executives by the fitting rooms whispered to each other, eyes wide. A new customer who had just entered stood transfixed near the entrance, recognition dawning on his face, as he realized who was standing in the center of the store. Staff members appeared from various corners of the boutique, drawn by the unusual energy disrupting their normally controlled environment. "There's been a misunderstanding," Bradley said, voice strained, as he attempted to regain professional footing. "I merely suggested—" "That someone like him doesn't belong here," Leonardo finished, his voice still remarkably casual. "I heard you clearly. We all did." He glanced around the store, acknowledging the audience they'd gathered. Michael cleared his throat. "It's okay, really. I probably should go somewhere more affordable." But his voice had gained strength, the words no longer carrying the sting of humiliation, but rather a quiet dignity. Leonardo turned to him. "What's your budget?" $800, Michael answered. "I've been saving since you got the call back. 3 months of double shifts, Leonardo nodded. You mentioned that? He turned to Vivian. What can we do for $800 here? Vivian's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing genuine discomfort. Our suits begin at $3,000, Mr. DiCaprio. Perhaps if the gentleman would like to look at our accessories. So nothing, Leonardo concluded. You have nothing for someone willing to spend their entire savings on one outfit for one day that could change their life. It wasn't a question. Bradley shifted his weight, adjusting his tie unnecessarily. The store's atmosphere had transformed entirely. The exclusive sanctum of luxury had become a stage, and everyone present knew they were witnessing something significant, a moment where invisible barriers were being not just challenged, but illuminated for all to see. Perhaps, Leonardo continued, we should discuss what makes someone worthy of shopping here. He gestured toward Michael. This man has an interview at Goldman Sachs tomorrow. He's clearly qualified enough to get that interview. He saved for months to buy a suit here, not at some discount store, because he respects the quality and understands the importance of presentation. And your response was to humiliate him. Phones recorded from every angle now. Someone had begun live streaming, the comments flooding in faster than they could be read. Mr. DiCaprio, Vivian interjected with quiet urgency, we value all our potential customers. If you'll allow me, I'm sure we can find a solution that lets you save face publicly? Leonardo's eyebrows raised slightly. The solution is simple. Apologize to Michael, and then help him find something appropriate for his interview. That's what should have happened from the moment he walked in. Bradley's face had progressed from pale to ashen. I apologize if my suggestion came across as... No, Leonardo cut him off. Not if it came across as. It was dismissive. It was judgmental. Own that. Michael, who had been watching this exchange with growing confidence, finally spoke. I just wanted to look professional tomorrow, he said, addressing not just Bradley, but the entire room. I'm the first in my family to graduate college, first to even apply for a job like this. I worked through school, maintained a 3.9 GPA, and built a financial model that got me this interview. His voice grew stronger with each word. I know I don't look like I belong here yet. That's why I came. A profound silence followed his words. Several people looked down, suddenly finding the floor fascinating. One of the young executives by the fitting room slipped his phone into his pocket, his face flushed with what appeared to be shame. Leonardo nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. He turned to Bradley, whose professional demeanor had completely evaporated, replaced by naked discomfort. Michael deserves your best service, Leonardo said quietly. Not because I'm standing here, not because people are recording this, but because that's what everyone deserves when they walk through that door, regardless of what they're wearing when they enter. Vivian stepped forward, visibly gathering the remnants of her professional composure. Michael, she said, meeting his eyes directly for the first time, would you allow me personally to help you find a suit for your interview tomorrow? The calculation was still there in her expression, but something else had joined it, perhaps a genuine recognition, however belated, of her store's failure. The tension in the room had reached its crescendo. Whatever happened next would determine how this story ended, not just for Michael and his interview, but for everyone watching in person and the thousands who would soon be watching online. Bradley's professional mask had completely disintegrated. Standing in the spotlight of public scrutiny, he looked smaller somehow, his expensive suit no longer a symbol of authority, but a costume that couldn't hide the man beneath. He began, then stopped, visibly struggling with words that had always come so easily when they were wrapped in practiced disdain. You're right, he finally said, looking directly at Michael. I judged you the moment you walked in. I didn't see a Goldman Sachs candidate. I saw someone who didn't fit my idea of who belongs here. His voice grew steadier as he continued. I was wrong, and I'm genuinely sorry. The apology hung in the air, its authenticity palpable. Michael nodded once, accepting it with quiet dignity. Leonardo stepped back slightly, creating space for what was unfolding. His presence remained commanding, but he was deliberately shifting the spotlight to Michael and Bradley. This moment belonged to them now. "If you'll allow me," Bradley continued, "I'd like to help you find something for tomorrow." The words weren't just professional obligation now. They carried the weight of genuine atonement. Michael hesitated, then nodded again. "Thank you," he said simply. Vivian moved forward, her manager's instincts for damage control transforming into something more genuine. "We'll need to make alterations immediately for delivery by morning," she said. "I'll call our tailor personally." The boutique's energy had transformed entirely. Staff members who had been watching from a distance now approached, offering assistance. The middle-aged woman who had been filming lowered her phone, watching the scene with unexpected emotion in her eyes. Her husband placed a hand on her shoulder, saying nothing but clearly moved by what they were witnessing. Leonardo observed it all with quiet satisfaction, the invisible barrier between belonging and not belonging dissolving before his eyes. This was no longer about him. It had become something larger, something genuine. Bradley led Michael toward the premium suit collection, explaining fabrics and cuts with newfound respect. "Navy is traditional for finance interviews," he advised, "but with your coloring, this deeper shade would be exceptional." His expertise was now being offered as a gift rather than wielded as a weapon. Leonardo followed at a respectful distance, allowing the interaction to unfold naturally. The other customers watched with interest, but the energy had shifted from voyeuristic spectacle to collective witness of something unexpectedly meaningful. "This is Italian wool," Bradley explained, presenting a suit that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. "Classic cut, but with details that show attention without being flashy." He hesitated, then added, "It's normally $3,200, but—" "I'll cover the difference," Leonardo interjected quietly. Michael turned, surprised. "That's incredibly generous, but—" "Consider it an investment," Leonardo said. "When you're running Goldman someday, I'll remind you of this moment." Michael straightened, looking Leonardo directly in the eyes. "Thank you, but no." His voice was firm, respectful, but resolute. "I appreciate the offer more than I can express, but I need to do this myself." He turned to Bradley. "Is there something quality within my budget, even if it's not your finest?" Bradley considered for a moment, then nodded with newfound respect. "Our previous season collection is in the back, still excellent quality, and with end-of-line discounts, we could find something within range." He glanced at Vivian, who nodded immediately. "I'll check our inventory," she said, moving toward the back office with purpose. One of the young executives who had been recording stepped forward, clearing his throat. "I'm with Goldman," he said. "Started last year. Been through what you're going through." He handed Michael a business card. "Text me tomorrow after the interview, whether it goes well or not." The simple gesture, professional respect from a peer, seemed to affect Michael more deeply than anything else that had happened. He accepted the card with a slight tremor in his hand. Vivian returned with a charcoal gray suit that gleamed subtly under the boutique lights. "Last season Armani, marked down to $950, she announced. "With our professional discount, we can bring it to $760. She glanced at Bradley, who nodded immediately, understanding the significance. "Plus, alterations rushed for morning delivery," Bradley added. "No additional charge." Michael ran his fingers over the fabric, appreciation evident in his expression. "It's perfect," he said quietly. The fitting that followed became something of a ceremony. Staff members brought shirts, ties, and shoes, offering opinions and encouragement. The middle-aged couple who had been filming earlier approached with a pocket square. "A gift," the woman said simply. "My husband wore one like this to the interview that changed his life 30 years ago. Bradley worked with focused precision, marking alterations with pins and making notes. His earlier condescension had been replaced by genuine professional pride in his craft. Leonardo watched it all unfold, occasionally catching the eye of someone filming and offering a small smile that somehow conveyed both permission and understanding. This moment had transcended celebrity intervention. It had become a collective restoration of dignity. As Michael studied his reflection in the three-way mirror, the transformation was evident not just in his attire, but in his bearing. He stood straighter, shoulders back, chin raised, not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who had been seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time. "How do you feel?" Leonardo asked. Michael met his gaze in the mirror. "Like I belong in the room," he answered. Leonardo nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. "That's what matters tomorrow, not the suit. You." Around them, the boutique hummed with renewed activity. Staff members coordinated rushed alterations. Customers returned to their shopping, though with subtle differences in their interactions with the staff. More please and thank you, more eye contact, more humanity. What had begun as a moment of humiliation had transformed into something none of them would forget, a lesson in seeing beyond appearances that would follow each of them long after they left the store. By closing time, the video had already reached 2 million views. DiCaprio lesson in class trended worldwide, with celebrities and business leaders sharing and commenting. The boutique's social media accounts gained thousands of followers, though the comment section revealed a deeply divided public, some praising the store's ultimate response, others condemning their initial treatment of Michael. As promised, the suit was delivered to Michael's apartment by 7 a.m. the next morning. Bradley himself made the delivery, insisting on a final check of the fit before Michael headed to his interview. Their interaction was brief but fundamentally changed, no longer defined by status and judgment, but by a shared understanding of the previous day's significance. "Remember," Bradley said as he made a minor adjustment to Michael's tie, "they'd be lucky to have you." The words were simple, but carried the weight of a profound personal transformation. Michael nodded, the mutual respect between them now genuine. Leonardo had declined all interview requests, issuing only a brief statement through his publicist. "Yesterday wasn't about me. It was about recognizing our shared humanity and the arbitrary nature of the barriers we create between us." Michael's dignity and grace spoke for itself. The video continued to spread throughout the day. Business schools used it in ethics classes. Corporate training programs incorporated it into diversity modules. Discussion panels on morning shows debated the wider implications for retail, class dynamics, and celebrity influence. Kingsley and Ross released a statement announcing a new program offering interview attire at cost for graduating students from disadvantaged backgrounds. They named it the Michael Chen Initiative and invited Michael to serve as an advisor, an offer he would consider after his interview. Social media exploded when Michael himself finally posted that evening. A simple thumbs-up photo outside Goldman Sachs with the caption, "They asked about my suit." The post was shared 300,000 times within hours, with thousands offering encouragement and asking for updates. Leonardo watched it all unfold from afar, declining further comment, but liking Michael's post from his official account, a simple gesture that added another 50,000 shares and confirmed to the world that the story was genuine. Celebrity news outlets reported that Leonardo had turned down 3 interview requests about the incident, insisting that Michael's journey was the story that mattered, not his own intervention. 3 weeks later, Michael posted again, a photo of himself in the same suit, holding an offer letter from Goldman Sachs. The image went viral instantly. His accompanying message became something of a modern parable. "The suit didn't get me the job. My skills, preparation, and determination did. But the journey to that interview taught me something more valuable than any position. Worth isn't determined by what you wear or how others initially perceive you. It's about how you carry yourself when those perceptions are stacked against you. To Leonardo, thank you for seeing me when others wouldn't. To Bradley and Kingsley and Ross, thank you for showing that growth and change are always possible. To everyone who shared and supported this journey, thank you for reminding me that for every person who judges a book by its cover, there are thousands who believe in looking deeper. I start at Goldman next month. First paycheck goes toward a suit for another student who might need the same chance I got. Second paycheck starts my parents' retirement fund. Some investments yield returns that can't be measured in dollars. His post received 1.4 million likes overnight. Among them was one from Leonardo DiCaprio, who added a simple comment: "The finest suit in the world is the one you've earned. Congratulations."